Hey, welcome back. This is Mama Ellie. Today we're going to read some Am I the A-holes? So let's get right on into it. Knuckle up. Would I be the a-hole if I break off my engagement because of his views about women? Probably not, but we'll find out. Let's see. Let's just see. My 28 female fiance, 34 male, and I used to have a great relationship, but for the last year his political views have become a problem. I mostly bit my tongue, but when it came to a head when he accused a woman at his job of lying about her sexual assault, I pointed out that when a woman accuses a man of he questions it and says she is lying. He justified that by saying it's stupid to believe an accusation like that with no proof. I pointed out that he has no proof that she's lying either, but he's accusing her anyway. He often sends me articles of women, usually teachers, sexually abusing boys. I brought up that he never says the boys are lying or asks for proof. He got very upset and kept repeating that I was trivializing male abuse. I don't feel like I was. I feel that I was just pointing out the hypocrisy. He denied being biased against female accusers. I reminded him that when allegations against Diddy first happened, he said feminists were just trying to ruin a successful man's life. Huh? Unsurprisingly, he never brought up the man who accused Diddy of assault. He defended Diddy up until the video of him physically assaulting Cassie was leaked. Even then, he said, "We didn't know the whole story."
You serious? What the fuck?
The final straw was when he was telling me, yet again, how women are actually worse than men because we are sneaky and conniving, and at least men will F you over to your face. Wow. He kept saying that women are far worse people than men, and I just lost it. Girl, I don't blame you. I said there was nowhere on earth, not now or ever in recorded history, has the female violent crime rate been higher than the males. Boom. I told him that men off each other even more than they off us, so they are a bigger danger to themselves than some girl being sneaky.
Say what?
I said that blaming women for unfair legislation, like conscription, makes no sense when men make up the majority of the US government. And most, if not all, other governments. He was absolutely furious about all this. He didn't argue with me per se. He just told me that I was brainwashed by the feminist agenda and that feminism lied to me and convinced me I was special. I still don't know where that comment came from. It was not relevant to anything. I, admittedly, was very pissed off and said, well, maybe patriarchy lied to you about the relationship being special. I threw my ring at the table, left the house, and haven't spoken to him since. Fair. I don't consider myself to be a super political person. I'm not even sure if I count as a feminist. I don't know when he became this way, but it sucks. There are still things I love about him, but the things he has been seeing may be more than I can forgive. Despite all that, I'm still responsible for my intense outbursts because I ignored his constant woman bashing in an effort to keep the peace. I exploded when I could have just spoken up from the start. Maybe if I'd nipped it in the bud right at the start, it could have been better. I don't know what to do. Am I the a-hole? Alright, there's update and comments and all of that, but let's just go with what we've got right now. Honestly, it would have been better to try to communicate from the start, this is true. But at the same time, you know, you in that very beginning, sometimes you just get blinded and you think, oh my god, everything else is going so well and he does this so awesome. And if that was like the worst of it, then you kind of end up getting, you know, out of balance. We're weird like that. Women are weird like that.
Women.
We can deny a lot. But yeah, I don't blame you for the outburst, but I do think that maybe if you could have nipped it in the bud and maybe just cut it off early, went your separate ways, it could have been better overall. But honestly, he's the a-hole for saying all that crap. Sorry, but yeah, that's BS. Update edit. I did a whole update post, but the TLDR is I told him I wasn't in love with him anymore and called off the engagement. I'm going to a friend's place for a few days, and he's going to move out of the condo by the 9th. Good. Relevant comments for OP, where the original OP clarifies several points. If you're mistaken about this simple foundational point, then it's likely, if I keep reading, I'm going to find out that you're wrong about a bunch of stuff. Okay? The main point, which was already pretty clear in the post, is that he accuses the women of lying, but not the men. If he sincerely believes that proof is necessary before believing an accusation, why is he only applying that belief to women? For real. Why do men who claim they were sexually assaulted not also bear the burden of proof in his eyes? Why are men believed automatically, but women have to prove it? This isn't about legal procedure. This is about his personal beliefs and hypocrisies. Okay. Pause for a second. Men are not immediately believed when it comes to being sexually assaulted, because there's still a lot of, bias and a lot of people thinking, oh, how could you let a woman take it, get the upper hand like that? You must not be a real man. So a lot of the time, men are either belittled or they're not believed, because nobody wants to believe that a girl can be awful. But guess what? We can be. Not me personally, but women can be crazy. Okay? We can be crazy. But women also have to fight to be believed as well, because unfortunately a lot of women have lied, and that has kind of ruined it and made it very difficult for women who are being assaulted to actually come forward and make a report and be taken seriously, and not have what their clothes were like, not have them blamed for their clothes. They're supposedly leading them on, even if they're wrapped up in sweaters and jeans and saying no. Unfortunately, on both sides there's a lot of issues, so I'm not really sure why she thinks that men are somehow more automatically believed. I mean, this guy does need to kind of maybe back off on thinking one over the other, but yeah. We must maintain the burden of proof on the accuser, is a comment. The irony is that you aren't applying this to my ex. He is accusing this woman of making a false grape accusation. That's very serious offense. He absolutely has no proof to support his accusation. If he cared about proof at all, then he would 1. Remain neutral until proof was presented. 2. Apply the burden of proof to himself while making accusations against another person. And 3. Require proof regardless of accuser's gender. He has done neither of these things because his distrust of women isn't about proof, it's about misogyny.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
The commenter says, but if you're not willing to do that, then he absolutely should leave you.
What are you talking about?
I left him. He didn't leave me. He's been texting me asking me to come home. You'd know that if you read the post instead of offering your uninformed, half-baked, try-hard, sophomore, anti-intellectual dribble.
Nice.
This is about the original OP on breaking up with her fiance because she doesn't want to live her life arguing over beliefs. And that is completely fair. That is, there are certain fundamental beliefs that if you are incompatible on those, it's going to mess up the rest of the relationship. That's just how it is. Some things cannot just be agree to disagree. Some things need to line up and be compatible. This is exactly it. I've seen some comments saying I need to try to work it out with him, and I did try. But eventually you realize you're fighting a losing battle, and the spoils of war aren't worth it anymore. Some guys in the comments are even saying, well, now you're single. Like I should be devastated that I don't get to explain empathy to a grown man all day, every day, anymore. Oh, girl. Stating how I belittled him with that comment and that I would be a good wife if I could just stop needing to be right all the time. Ugh. That's all you needed to hear from him. Don't look back. Yeah, don't rear view mirror. Bye. Here is the actual update. Hi again. I'm surprised and overwhelmed by the response my post got. Thanks to everyone who read through all that, and thanks to anyone who reads through all of this too. After I left, I went to a hotel. He kept contacting me to ask when I was coming home. Never. I told him I needed time to think and turned off my phone. When I turned it back on, I saw his photo on my lock screen and decided to call him for reasons that will make sense later. He said he wanted to talk face to face, and I agreed, so I went home. He apologized for implying that I'm not special. I apologized for implying our relationship wasn't special. We've been together for 12 years. Oh my God, you put up with that crap for 12 years? Girl.
Me personally, I wouldn't take this level of disrespect.
So saying that was hurtful and untrue. Before anyone compares the harshness of our statements, his wrongs don't justify my own and vice versa. Disclaimer, this post isn't about the validity or ethics of gender roles. This is strictly an account of what happened with no wider social commentary from me. Okay, cool. We discussed what we wanted for the future. He wants a traditional marriage and specified the following. 1. I should quit my job and we'd start trying for a baby right after the wedding. 2. I'd be a stay-at-home mom until the kids are old enough for primary school and we'd raise them as Christians. 3. He wants to protect and provide for our family, and I would be submissive. He assured me that I could still disagree with him and have a say, but he wants to ultimately have the final say in most things. Oh. Ugh, I'm sorry, I'm not. Look, that works for some people. Some people, that is their dynamic and they love it. They're happy. Both parties are happy. Everyone's yay. But it's not me. No, not me. I'm very opinionated and outspoken, and I could not do that. Alright. He asked if I understood what he wanted, and I said yes. When he asked me if I still wanted to get married, I told him that I didn't. He has the right to change his mind, but it's not the arrangement we agreed on when he proposed. This post is long enough, so I won't detail how he got into this gender essentialism stuff, or why I don't want this type of relationship he's asking for. Suffice to say, we are no longer compatible. He wants to do a trial run of his preferred setup, so I can see that it's for the best. I told him that we had a very successful trial run of not doing that for 10 years until he decided to switch things up a few years ago. He was unfazed by this. So about the lock screen. He has a small snaggletooth toward the back that he's always been shy about. So he never fully smiles in public. That photo is one of the very few pictures where he's showing his real smile, and it's beautiful. Seeing that photo used to make me so happy. When I saw it this morning, I just felt sad. I know it sounds dramatic, but I feel like he died and was replaced by some kind of red-pilled pod person. I get that. When he asked me if I still loved him at all, I told him that I will always love him, but I'm not in love with him anymore. I get that many people had strong feelings about the things he said, and he definitely crossed the line several times, but this is still so hard for me to do. He's the only man I've ever been with, and my best friend. I'm relieved that it's over, but still sad about how it ended. I accept that he's a different person now, but it's not hard to think of what could have been. Oh, man. So he wasn't always like that. And it's just more recently in the past few years. That's a bummer. You guys spent so much time together, only for him to throw it all away. Relevant comments. Commenter number 1. You put it perfectly right here. He asked if I understood what he wanted, and I said yes. When he asked me if I wanted to get married, I told him that I didn't. He has the right to change his mind, but it's not the arrangement we agreed on when he proposed. You made an informed decision. Commenter number 2 says, I'm very proud of you. It's hard to make that change. And you were so honest about how this isn't going to work for you. And yes, he changed things. You had 10 good years and 2 bad ones. Those bad ones outweigh the good. You're going to thrive. Yeah, I would say just, hold on to those good memories, and who knows, maybe he'll come back around to his senses, but don't wait for it. Move on with your life and do what makes you happy. All right. Had to put on my glasses. Of course, now I have that annoying reflection. I don't like that. I want to just look down. Just hello. I'm sorry. Sorry. No, I'm not. I just change positions just a little bit because I don't like that reflection. It bothers me.
We don't care.
Okay. Am I the a-hole for inviting my nephew to my wedding despite his estrangement from my brother? That depends on who did what and why they're estranged. I, 33 male, am marrying my fiance, 37 male, this winter. We're putting together the guest list to send the invitations out and have run into an issue over my nephew and my brother. My brother, 38 male, was 18 when his girlfriend told him she was pregnant. They ended up moving in together, and my brother decided to find work as a mechanic rather than go to college as he planned. My nephew was born a little while later. They got married when she told him she was pregnant with their second kid, who was 15 female, and then they had 2 more, both 10 male. Ever since my nephew was born, he's been literally one of my favorite people. I babysat him plenty of times, same with my other nibblings, and have spent my 20s as their gunkle. Gay uncle. That's cute. My brother and me were close as kids, and I've been close with his kids as well. 5 years ago, my brother found out that my nephew wasn't his, and his now ex-wife had been sleeping with someone else at the time and had suspected my oldest nephew wasn't my brother since he was a little kid. Oh my gosh. Ooh. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a toughie. They ended up getting a divorce, as you do, and my brother didn't seek custody of my oldest nephew and said he didn't want to see him. He told me that he needed time to process and would try to patch things up later. The idea was kind of ruined when my nephew turned up at my brother's apartment begging to talk and turned into an argument between them.
I don't like where this is going.
I understand that that child is a constant reminder that your ex-wife cheated. I get that. I understand that. But you have been raising that child as your own. To him, you are his father. And until you found out that he wasn't yours, he was your son. So, I mean, I've never been in this position. I imagine it's very difficult, but I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could just push him away after having tried to raise him for all those years, I'd push there would definitely be a divorce, but that would still be my kid. In my opinion, that would still be their kid. And, blood, family, as they say in Supernatural, family doesn't always end in blood. It doesn't always start there either. All right. For context, our father had just passed a couple of months earlier. During the argument, my nephew said something along the lines of, "No wonder Mom effed somebody else. I bet Grandpa hated you." Damn! My brother cut things off then and there and has refused to see my nephew since.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
I stepped in as the main male figure in my nephew's life, much as I dislike my ex-sister-in-law. I even took him out for his 18th birthday and took him looking at universities, and he now goes to my alma mater. Oh, that's nice. At least somebody stepped up. I asked my brother how he wants to handle the seating situation if they don't want to be close together. My brother was angry I'd even invite my nephew after everything that happened. He said it'd be like inviting my ex-sister-in-law. He's not family, he's just the prick who disrespected our dad.
Stop it. Get some help.
No, dude. No, you pushed him away, and so he lashed out at you. Okay? If you had accepted him still as your son, he probably wouldn't have said any of those things. Instead, OP stepped up and was the male figure in his life. So, of course, he's going to invite his nephew to his wedding, okay? Deal with it. It's not your wedding. You don't get to choose the guests. Just deal with it, sit on the other side of the freaking room, and move on with your life. I said he's being petty and childish, taking the words of a scared and angry 14-year-old so personally. He was a kid who said something itty because his entire world was falling apart, and the person he relied on for his whole life was suddenly pulling away. And instead of being understanding and doing family therapy or something like a grown-up, my brother decided to give adult weight to a teenager's words and cut him off completely. That's what I'm saying. That is what I am saying. My nephew said he's okay with not going if it's causing an issue, but I told him not to be ridiculous. He's important to me, and I want him there for when I marry my person. I told him he shouldn't let my brother's inability to let go be his problem. My fiancé agrees with me. My mom and sister both say I need to see it from my brother's perspective. I think he's just being petty. Am I the a-hole? I don't think so. Like, it's your wedding, and you should be surrounded by the people you love and who love you and are there to celebrate your love. Okay? And nobody else gets to decide who's going to be there. Nobody else gets to write the guest list but you and your fiance. Like I said, sit them on opposite sides during the ceremony, opposite sides during the reception, whatever you got going on, brunches, rehearsal dinners, whatever, just opposite sides. And, tell them to suck it up and drive on, okay? I hate that phrase. But yeah, when it comes to stuff like this, suck it up and drive on, okay? Boom. Relevant comments. One commenter said, info, did your brother ask your nephew for space directly, or did he just abandon the kid and rely on his lying, cheating ass to pass along the message? Original OP, if I remember correctly, he didn't say anything to my nephew, just up and left. Oh, that's even worse. That is even worse. How it came out. Original OP said, yes, I'm pretty sure the whole thing started over a blood typing assignment thing for biology class. Brother is O negative, ex-sister-in-law is A negative, nephew is A positive. Awkward. It's always those kind of things that reveal it, doesn't it? If it's not some school project, it's when you go and do ancestry DNA type things, One commenter said, your brother is allowed to set boundaries, saying, I won't be at your wedding if the kid is there because of my mental health. And you're allowed to say, okay, someone's boundaries are their own. If they try to manipulate or change you on your choices to enforce their boundaries, that crosses the line into controlling, not the a-hole. The original poster said, the problem is he wants me to uninvite my nephew. He feels entitled to go himself. Oh, boy, no. The nephew is 19 now. He was 14 when this all went down. The commenter said, has he shown remorse for what he said? He's old enough now to say he said something wrong and to apologize. And poster said, he'll apologize. My nephew says he'll apologize if my brother apologizes for abandoning him. You know what? That's fair. He has no relationship with his biological dad and expresses no desire for one. He said when people tell him that, he asks why he should seek to put a relationship with a perfect stranger he's never met before.
Wait a minute! Who are you?
See, that's the thing. Bio dad is a stranger. Brother was in his life for 14 years and then just said, oh, not mine, bye. Like I said, I've never been in that situation, but I can't imagine abandoning a kid, like, just that I'd been raising for 14 years. Commenter said, "You're allowed to invite who you want to your wedding. Just recognize you'll be facing repercussions either way. You'll destroy your relationship with someone or several someones. If, for example, you destroy your relationship with your brother, will you be destroying your relationship with his other children? Will you be able to live with that?" And Original LP said, "Visiting my nephew before he was 18 meant attaching a clothespin to my nose and spending time in the same general vicinity of my ex-sister-in-law regardless. My relationship with my other nibblings is safe. They have 50-50 custody and my niece wants her brother there. I just found this out because my brother complained to our sister that they had a fight about it when she found out he didn't want her brother there." And Poster is responding to a longer comment saying, "I'm not going to blame a scared, angry kid for lashing out. As far as he was concerned, my brother was his father, who he's suddenly being abandoned by." Exactly, agreed. One commenter said, "You don't gotta blame him, but you could have held him accountable and tell him that his words had meaning. What's so hard about that? Like y'all saying, kid this, kid that, but that don't mean you don't gotta hold him accountable." Poster says, "We talked it over. He called me in a panic thinking he'd ruined everything. And I told him what bus to take to get somewhere near my apartment, and we talked about it. I offered to be the go-between and asked my brother if he'd be willing to talk more civilly, and he said he didn't want to see him again." One commenter says that everybody sucks here. Your brother needed time to process everything. I mean, he abandoned all his college plans and life plans to be there for his wife and what he thought was his child, and found out all these years later that everything was a lie. He had the rug pulled out from under him. Then afterwards, his dad dies. I mean, that's tough. You don't sound like you cut him any slack. You're doing a good job of undermining your brother's feelings. Do you even like him? Your brother deserved space at the time. Who's to say he wasn't going back to parenting your nephew? Your nephew said something that was extremely mean-spirited. Yes, he was a teenager, but since when are teenagers exempt from accountability? I think you're not doing a good job of managing the situation. It seems like you've already abandoned your brother." Poster says, "Accountability is tell them what they did wrong and make them make amends as best they can, not cut them out entirely and claim their harsh words were the reason." Fair. Commenter replied that those are not harsh words. Those are definitely fighting words if I've ever seen them. What your nephew said was cool and said in such a vulnerable time, and it's insane that you can't recognize that. Your brother was kicked when he was already down. He was a boss whose shiny, glowing weakness was exposed and attacked. He had salt rubbed into him. Dude. He wasn't the... Okay. Yes, the brother was kicked when he was down. But if he had... But he was also just saying he was also just like, I don't want to be your dad anymore. I'm abandoning you. Like, what else is that scared... Like, that scared kid is gonna lash back out, okay? He is the adult. And he needed to act like the adult. Poster says, "And my nephew was a scared, angry kid whose whole world was falling apart, and at 14 had nowhere near the emotional maturity to deal with that fact well. They were both hurt people who hurt people. The difference is, my nephew has no issue with my brother being there, whereas my brother didn't want me to invite my nephew. The nephew's relationship with his mom is for about a year or so afterwards, he would throw it in her face every time she tried to reprimand him. Much as I dislike her myself, I eventually sat down and pointed out she didn't actually know for certain he wasn't his father until the DNA test. She just strongly suspected. I also pointed out that the more people he cuts off, the fewer people he has to fall back on when things get tough. Things are okayish between them, and okayish is probably as good as it's gonna get." And the responses were heavily mixed, but for the most part, he was voted not the asshole. And I'm fully behind that. Oh, 9 days later, we have an update. Update. I decided to follow some of your advice and talk to him about what happened and set some boundaries with my brother. So I saw him in person to talk things over. I told him that my nephew has been in my life for more than half my life. I was 14 when he was born. I had been his uncle for 19 years, and fundamentally, he's not the one that betrayed my brother. And while I can't imagine what must have been going through my brother's head at the time, it's not my battle to fight, and even if it were, I'm not obligated to take it out on a kid who had nothing to do with it. What he said was extremely poopy, yeah. but we're talking about someone who was 14 at the time and absolutely did not have the emotional maturity to handle the situation. I told him my nephew was open to a mutual apology. So bottom line, my nephew is invited and he's getting a +1, and I will seat him away from my brother if he wishes, but that's the most I will do. They can talk or not talk, kiss and make up or ignore each other all night, but I'm not making it my bite. My brother said he understood and would think about it. Then a couple days later, he drunk tested me a complete 180 and asked if I could invite my ex-sister-in-law too, which I think is probably because his RSVP included his new girlfriend as his +1, and she's 26. I just know my niece complained it was gross that her dad's new girlfriend was a year closer to her age than his. My brother at best is charming, confident, looks-wise kind of like a chunkier version of me, so not bad looking. And he had no trouble pulling women post-divorce once he got his confidence back and lost weight. I declined his drunk request, but his girlfriend is nice, and I told my niece that girlfriend is inside the half+7, so she can't be completely grossed out. If you don't know what that means, it is when looking at age differences, if you take your age, you half it, and then you add 7, that is the youngest that you should be dating. Since someone asked about my nephew and ex-sister-in-law, I'll explain. She didn't know for sure that my nephew wasn't my brother's, but she strongly suspected, and she was sleeping with both her affair partner and my brother at the time. For about a year after the divorce, my nephew would throw the deception back in her face every time she reprimanded him, until I sat him down and pointed out that the more people he pushes away, the few people he has in his corner when things go south. Bottom line is, she is his mother. After that debacle with my nephew, my brother and ex-sister-in-law were more careful with my niece and the twins about not making adult problems their problems as well. Why weren't you doing that to begin with? Well, you know. Unfortunately, you learn from your mistakes. You have to make those mistakes in order to learn from them. Sometimes the kids get caught in the crossfire. Sorry, there was no Scarlet A like many of you would have liked. She's not my favorite person, but I can sort of tolerate her. To answer the question about his bio dad, my nephew has expressed zero desire to meet him. He says he doesn't get why people think a perfect stranger could replace my brother, like being abandoned out of the blue never happened. Right? My nephew RSVP'd yes, and is taking his they friend. His SO is non-binary, so that's what they're calling themselves. Oh, that's cute. So fingers crossed for a happy ending. So yeah, I don't think he was the a-hole. I think that they should probably all attend some form of therapy. If the dad and the, the non-bio dad, but still, it's his father, I'm sorry. But if the brothers, so if OP's brother and nephew are willing, I think it'd be great to go to like a family therapy kind of thing. And I don't like how people keep going after OP about his brother, saying he doesn't care about his brother. Like, look, he probably does, but he also was, looking at this as a 14-year-old kid being abandoned. And he gets to say who he invites to his wedding, okay? It's his freaking wedding. All right. Thank you for sticking with me. I'd love to hear your opinions in the comments on these stories. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Do you think these OPs were the a-holes? Or the jackwagons? I would like to call them jackwagons. Do you think they're not the jackwagon? Where do you fall on that? And if you liked the video, please give it a like. Go ahead and subscribe. It really helps me out. It helps me grow. And I would love to just be able to bring fun content to everyone. So yeah, so thank you and bye.